My name is Lily, and today I will be covering both the narrative and ethical side of the Volkswagen emission software fraud. So, how did it all begin? Well, in 2006, Volkswagen promised the world that they would produce a clean diesel car. And what that essentially meant is that they were going to produce a car that had all the benefits of diesel but none of the main downsides, which is its emissions level. And this is what the world wanted. The world wanted a compact diesel car that had the power and energy of regular diesel cars without the emissions levels that they produced. Because in the US, the US regulations required that the emissions be so low, so certain cars, the cars that the people wanted, weren't available in the US due to these regulations, and Volkswagen wanted to combat this problem with their very own car. But they made two fatal flaws. And the first is that they never considered that they would be able to have all three: the power, the emission level, and the energy. Many people in the industry understand that it is almost impossible to have all three, and that you often need to sacrifice one of these aspects to make sure that the other two are at their highest and at the best that they can possibly be. And the other flaw is that Volkswagen never gave their engineers enough time or money to complete the project properly. And James Lang, the head engineer on the project, soon discovered this after being assigned to the project. He realized that it was impossible and that with the time and money constraints he was given, there was no way he was going to be able to complete this project. So his solution to it: install a defeat device that was made illegal in 2004 into the car that would change the emission levels when it was undergoing US testing. He knew that this was illegal, but instead of going to his bosses, this was the decision that he came to. And in 2015, the US government discovered that Volkswagen had these in his car, and despite Volkswagen claiming that they never knew about the installation, James Lang pleaded guilty to avoid harsher charges with the full cooperation of the US government, and Volkswagen was eventually forced to pay a large sum to the US government and to call back all the cars that had this defeat device in them. So clearly there was a very moral gray area that James Lang entered, and that he ended up making an unethical decision when faced with the moral dilemma that he came across. But what led him to make this decision, and what values did he consider? Well, I argue that one main value he considered was reputation. He wanted to have a good reputation, and he wanted to be known for the engineer that produces what his company wants and is reliable and is hardworking, and that's exactly why he installed the defeat device. He installed it so that to the eyes of the managers and the eyes of Volkswagen, that he was a good engineer and that he produced what he was asked to produce in a timely fashion and exactly how they wanted it. So reputation was a key factor in his decision. But personal profit was also a key factor. He considered his job and the money he was ought to lose if he would to be forced to quit his job or be fired over his decision to not install the defeat device or tell his managers that it was impossible. Anyone can be replaced in a job very easily. With the economy that they had at the time, in the 2008s, when the market was not great and with everyone looking for a job. So James Lang knew that if he refused to make this product or told the engineers it was impossible, they could find someone else who was willing to do it. So instead of risking his job, which he used to support his family and to pay for his house and food and other necessary resources, he installed a defeat device to ensure that he would have that personal profit and so that he would keep his income coming for as long as possible. But these two decisions lead to his ethical framework being ethical egoism. He didn't make a decision based off of what was best for the people or what was best for the environment. He made a decision based off of what was best for him. He considered his own reputation and his own personal profit. He didn't make a decision based off of anybody else but himself. And everything that was coming of his decision benefited him and didn't benefit anyone else. This is not what you should consider when making a car for customers, hundreds and millions of customers. You should consider them, and especially should consider the environment. This is why I argue that instead of considering ethical egoism, he should consider duty ethics, and specifically the duty that he had to his customers and the duty that he had to the environment. He should have done everything in his power to do right by his customers and do right by his environment, rather than right by him, and that's the decision that he ended up coming to. But what can we learn, and what can future engineers learn from making this decision and from so that this never happens again? Well, the first is that reputation is a two-sided coin. You can't have a good reputation. You can have a good reputation, a reputation for being reliable and for being safe and producing good work. But you can also have a reputation for being unethical and unmoral and for producing products that are harmful to either the customers or the environment. And this is what James Lang failed to view. He failed to see both sides of it. He only considered, how can I have a good reputation, not what would happen if I made this decision and was caught, and what would happen to my reputation then? He should have considered both aspects, because if he had considered both aspects, then he never would have made the decision that he would have made. He would have made sure that the product was safe for the environment, that there was not going to be any scandal over it, so that he could maintain the respect and the reputation that he had as an engineer at the time. And the other one is a constant theme that we have faced, and it's just personal profit over safety. Safety is something, or safety over personal profit. And in this case, he considered personal profit over safety, but you should never do that. Safety is a long-term thing. Protecting the environment will help generations down the line and will help us live on this earth for longer and longer. But personal profit is short-term. It's within your lifetime. It's within your job. And you need to do what's best and most long-term. And in that case, it was considering safety. So engineers need to consider the safety over personal profit and consider both parts of reputation to ensure that they are making the most moral decision. Because if you consider both parts of reputation and safety over personal profit, you will inevitably make the right decision no matter what it is. Thank you.